Hi all, and this week, as you probably guessed from the title, we've got quite a controversial topic to talk about. Now, I bought my cards here. I don't know whether we're actually going to be doing a read. I just really kind of wanted to discuss this issue with you generally. I'd love to hear how you feel about this, but it's been all over the news. It seems to be a real hot topic recently. There seems to be a real war going on around the LGBTQIA plus whole situation. Now, as you know, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are as well, I'm a truther, but I'm also a Lightworker and a Starseed. And so the way I view this is not going to be the same way. I don't think that most people are going to view this, and I imagine that you're not going to be viewing this the same way that most people view this either. Although I don't know, let me know if you completely disagree with me. But like I said, I can't help noticing there's a war going on out there, and I get that this whole thing is exactly what the Black Hats wanted, that they set it up like this so that there would be this division with people, that there would be this war, that there would be this vitriol, that there would be this mainstream media blowing things out of all proportion. And it's quite frustrating that people are kind of getting dragged into this war. But I'm going to be saying something about that in the end. So I'm a truther, so I understand how frustrating it is that this is how the Black Hats have set this whole thing up, to divide people, to create this war, to bring the energy down. But I'm also a human being, and I'm also a light worker. What really upsets me about this whole thing is the way that the Black Hats plan to divide people, to create this divide, to create this anger and this war. Basically, it seems to be working, and obviously this whole thing is to keep us body focused. I'm this, I'm that. We've seen the Black Hats do this before. They've done it so many times before. They've separated, labelled and oppressed a group of people, and then there's a big opening up of, oh, it's okay now, and then people get divided and there's a whole war. It goes on and on. This is one of the Black Hats' tricks. They've done it before. Hopefully they'll never do it again. We don't know. Hopefully they're all gone by now. But this is one of their tricks. As well, of course, as the whole transgender thing. We know that they change people's gender, often as children, sometimes very young. It's obviously confusing and upsetting for the people who've had their gender changed without their consent, as they usually are. Well, from what I've heard, they are children anyway. And obviously it's getting us all body focused again, and focused on this argument, who's right and what's right. And I understand the truth is getting really angry about this, because from what I can see, it is being pushed on children. And when you know what the Black Hats do and how they do it, this is a hugely worrying sign. But at the end of the day, LGBTQIA plus is a thing. It is a real thing, and we're all humans, whatever your gender, whatever your gender identity, whatever your sexuality, we are. And I'm going to get to that later on. We are all humans with emotions and feelings, and we're all here in the awakening. And this whole body focusing issue, rather than being soul focused, which would be much healthier and happier if we could all just be people, and if we could all just be souls in bodies, and none of this was an issue and none of this was a problem, and we weren't arguing about it and we weren't fighting about it, and there weren't dramatic mainstream media getting involved, etc, etc, etc. And it's made even harder with religion, and I want to say particularly Christianity, but I don't find many religions, the major religions anyway, excluded from this, pushing hard the anti-LGBTQIA plus topic, which obviously pushes anyone who's in that group into God is a bad entity and there's no such thing as spirit and soul, which creates even a bigger problem, which is what this war is causing even more of, isn't it? But that's another black hat trick, isn't it? You know, God says this and God says that, and then it's like, well, if God says this and God says that, and God's a bit of a dick, and I don't like God, and that's obviously the whole point of the whole situation, isn't it? And I do understand why truthers are wanting to protect particularly children from this, but obviously if it is pushed to such an extent, which I understand that it is being, I could be wrong, but then, you know, we all like to explore our gender and sexuality, don't we? At least I hope we're all open enough to be able to do that. And I understand as well for truthers, you know, modern medicine and big pharma do have a hand in this and are still profiting from this. And that's not saying that, you know, people shouldn't be able to transition. That's not for me to say, is it? I can understand what, and I'm going to be getting to that in a minute, I can understand why people would want to transition. But then, on the other hand, I can also say, well, you know, if somebody's profiting from this and they're pushing this hard and they've got friends in high places, that's not a good thing, is it? So, you know, I do see that truth side of the story. However, as a light worker and a starseed, here right now in this awakening, I can also see that people do need to explore who they are, and life isn't as clear cut as, well, you're born a man so you're a man, or you're born a woman so you're a woman, and you're born a man so you should, you know, want to have sex with a woman. Life isn't that simple, is it? We're all different on purpose. That's the whole point, isn't it? And especially when we're considering that so many of us are starseeds, and we do, and some of us have come to Earth recently from our starseed families, and that can be hard to adjust to, especially when, you know, it may be that we haven't come from a place where a pairing is two people, although in our language it's hard to say it any other way. A romantic relationship is two people. You know, some places a relationship is 32 people, 16 male and 16 female, and don't ask about that because I didn't go any further than that, so I don't know how exactly that works, but I can pretty much imagine. You know, and some people are coming from higher realms where the physicality is such, well, maybe you aren't male or female, maybe your divine masculine and divine feminine are so well balanced, you don't need a sex or a gender, and some people are, and some starseeds are coming from places where procreation doesn't necessarily have to be physical. So, you know, I understand the starseed point of view as well. And I also understand from a spiritual perspective that there are lots of spiritual reasons you can be gay or bisexual, and there are lots of spiritual reasons you can feel that you're in the wrong body. Me, as a spirit, my spirit when it's manifested in a body, prefers to be female. So in that sense, I was quite lucky to be born with a female body. I had enough hardships to experience without being persecuted for that as well. At least I was born in a female body this reincarnation. I've not experienced all my lives as a female, however. In one past life regression, I got to understand exactly how angry and upsetting and devastating it was to be born as a man. And I really genuinely did not like that at all, and that had impacted my spirit. Negate even past the benefits of being able to pee standing up. My offspring has also had issues with this, being born more regularly into male bodies in past lives. Currently they've settled on gender fluid and they seem quite happy with that, so currently that's where they are. But you know, it is something that you do have to kind of explore and go with what you feel. And I'm sure as grown-ups, as light workers, as starseeds, you would know that. You would have experience of that yourself. Sexuality, I was born hetero. Like I said, I had enough cards stacked against me without being oppressed because of my sexuality as well, especially back in the 70s, although there was some movement forward, some huge movement forward I saw anyway in the 80s. And I have explored my sexuality. I'm not just, oh well, you know, I'm hetero and that's it. There are lots of spiritual reasons that you may be gay or bisexual or even asexual as well. I know these are all labels, but they are experiences and expressions as well. And I'm going to get on to talking about labels shortly. Now, I've just put together a little list of some of the major ones, 3 of the major ones that came instantly to mind. There are lots of reasons. You might have been born gay or bisexual or asexual or even heterosexual. The first one is karma. You may have in a previous life been involved in persecution of non-heterosexual people or oppressed non-heterosexual people family, and now it's your turn to fully experience the consequences of being oppressed in that way. As we've discussed, being in a non-preferred body sex or being fluid about body sex. So if you're not in your preferred body type, it's very likely from previous lives, if you've been on Earth for several reincarnations, for example, that you would be attracted to the gender and the people who are from your previous lives, or you were attracted to in previous lives. That can carry over as well. So if you've in your previous life, if you've been born male and you've always been attracted to women, and now you're a female, it's likely that you'll still be attracted to women. The energy of your soul is going to come back with you. And lastly, of course, is the starseed situation. What if, and I've already discussed this, but what if you are quite new on this planet and you're just not used to coupling, and you're not used to coupling male and female, and that's not comfortable for you, that's not what you've experienced. There are, you know, you've experienced other situations, and that's what you've brought with you in terms of your soul. There are all kinds of different ways of I've already looked at some of them, so I won't go there again. And I do want to look at labels, and I get that people say, oh, it's just a label. And labels are words that make us left-brained, and we should be more right-brained and spiritual. And that is true. We've been brought up in a very right-brained, physical situation. And yes, we should be kind of bringing in that right-brain spirituality a lot more. But we all did come here to experience the physical world. That is why we are here, to be in physical bodies, in the physical world, and to experience that. And that means gender and sexuality, and labels help with that. I mean, you go into a shop, you need to know whether you're buying Merlot or Shiraz. They're labels, but it makes a difference on what you're buying. When I go into a shop, I need to know whether I'm buying organic or whether I'm buying vegetarian or vegan. And without labels, you're not going to be able to do that. And I also know that when things started to open up around paganism and witchcraft, really started to open up in the 2000s, and there were lots and lots of witch labels out there, and I found one for me, and it was really comforting for me, and it helped me understand others are in the exact same boat as me, and I wasn't alone. It was of huge comfort to me, and I get that with the LGBTQIA plus situation, it is really comforting to know that you're not alone, and there is a group of people, and that is being explored, and that is and sometimes, okay, with exploration, it does go too far, but it rights itself again. It's going to go too far with the oppression, like with paganism and witchcraft, that it becomes something that you can't talk about, or something that you can't be, or something that you can't express. That there is a bounce back from that, and this is all black hat situations that's created this oppression, So what is my conclusion? My conclusion is stop the war, stop the fighting, stop the arguing. I understand the truthers are out there getting the message across. This is a black hat op, and it should be monitored. In lots of ways it should be monitored, but we as Lightworkers and Starseeds are here to bring peace and love and anchor the light into this physical world right now. That is our purpose, our sole purpose, if you like, to align to the higher vibrations and connecting with the higher energies. Starting a war and alienating people, especially when we know that this is a black hat op. It's not going to help to get dragged into that. The purpose of this black hat op was to divide people and to create separate groups, to create separation. I'm not saying don't stand up for what you believe in, but remember your goal, your mission, and don't get dragged into the lower vibrations. Stay in the higher vibrations of peace and love. And whatever you're hearing or seeing about this situation, please remember that this is a black hat op to separate us, and to not get dragged into that is to not get involved in any form of separation in that way. I guess we could have a quick look at what the cards have to say about this. Let's have a little bit of a look. I bet you went out of focus there. Okay, I get what they're saying here is that anything can be used and turned to our advantage. I did forget to say that. Anything can be turned to our advantage, and excluding people and alienating people is what the black hats want. We're going to do the opposite, aren't we? We can use this to our advantage if we look at things differently. I'm not saying anything I've said here is going to be of shock to anybody, or that anybody isn't already on this path, on this road. But I do get it's important that we state our truth as well, look at things differently. We can turn this to our advantage. We can bring love and joy to this argument, this fight. It might be a bit of a juggle at first, but this is about bringing the truth to the lies that we've been taught, that we've been brought up with in this society that now forms this as our standard, and we just accept it. There's no reason for us to get caught up. Just bring light to the truth. Sorry, bring light to this argument. Stay centered, stay in love. The same message we always get: come back to love, come back to lightness, and don't get dragged into the lower vibrational energies, which I know I've already said already. I don't know if your view is the same or different in any way. I'd love to hear your opinion about this. I don't normally cover controversial issues. It really is a war out there on this, isn't it? And I wouldn't normally look at this, but it's got to such a stage now where I felt I had to say something. I felt I had to put my point across, my view across on this situation. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad you did. I'm wishing you lots and lots and lots of love and light. Stay in the light, stay in the love energy. Don't get dragged into the lower vibrational energies. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for joining me. Bye.